Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Tactical Thursday. This is the very first episode ever, and I have a wonderful guest, Lucy Morton. She is a professional proofreader, and we're going to be talking about proofreading to sell your book and why it's important, how you get it, all those wonderful, amazing things. And so, Lucy, thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to get started tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be
Yeah.
the inaugural guest on this.
Yeah, you are. And so the crazy thing is I just named it last night as I was trying to think of something cool to name this. It's
Love it.
Tactical Thursday, so here we go. And this will
Perfect.
also be airing on the Daily Self-Publishing podcast. And so, we're getting a two for one here. Awesome, private group discussion and an awesome podcast episode. So
That's great.
can't get any better than that. Yeah. Lucy, how did you get into proofreading in the first place?
Okay. My journey from proofreading starts pretty much when I was in college, I would say. So I graduated with a degree in English. And while I was in college, I worked at our school's writing center. So I would basically help students proofread and edit their papers before they turned them in for grades. And then after college, I worked as a paralegal for about a decade. And being a paralegal, you do a whole lot of different stuff. But one of the things that you do is you proofread and edit documents because you are finalizing documents before they go out the door. So I
Yeah.
did a lot of editing legal documents, correspondence, academic papers. And I kind of got a reputation in our firm for being kind of the go-to proofreader because I liked it and I had a bit of a knack for it. So, like, our marketing manager would ask me to proofread press releases. I would also look at PowerPoint presentations, just a whole bunch of different stuff. And when I decided that I didn't want to be a paralegal anymore, I wanted to do something different. I decided to go out on my own and be a freelance proofreader. So that is, in
Yeah.
a nutshell, my journey.
Oh, I love it. I love being in a nutshell too. Now, a little Austin Powers joke if anybody's old enough to
Yep.
remember that. So, a couple of things. First off, guys, thanks for joining us on the Book Boss Tribe Tactical Thursday. If you're on, please say live replay. Let us know if you like it. Share it out, stars, hearts, everything. Please, 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 so people will see this. The next thing is, how awesome is that to be the go-to person in the legal firm as proofreading? Because, I don't know. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of experience with attorneys and lawyers, things like that, but probably not a good idea to put out stuff that's incorrect.
Yeah, it is. It's an important part of the job, for sure. You definitely want to make sure that your information is correct and you want to make sure that it looks professional because it's going to be public record and it obviously is really important in such a professional field that your documents look good. So yeah, an important role and could be high stress, but I was happy to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. I love it. So you took that 10 years experience as a paralegal and your English degree and all that stuff. And so I made a C in English in college. Just want to let you guys know that. So and I've still written books. It's you can do it.
There you go.
What exactly is proofreading in the grand scheme of writing a book?
Sure. So proofreading is sort of the last edit of a book, at least in like a traditional publishing sense. And there's different phases of editing if you go with like a publishing house, but the proofread really is the final pass. The document is usually ready to go, ready to be published, and so it's just a final review for any errors that are left, grammar, punctuation, spelling, that kind of stuff is really what the proofreader does.
Yeah, it's just so it's really you're the last ditch effort of making it look perfect.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Amazing. So see, Lucy, I needed you on my very first book. So this is my first book, Neck Pain Solutions. Myself and Mark Green made this book, and this is a Fiverr cover, but I really love it. I really love it. The guy did an amazing job, and the back cover looks
Yeah.
good, and I like red and white. But so the first version of that was called Symptom Free Neck Pain, and I put it. It was to grow my business. I had a physical therapy clinic, and I put the phone number in the back, and I left out the last digit on my phone number.
Oh
So
no.
that is why proofreading is important
There you go. True
because
stories.
nobody called me for my book, even though I gave out hundreds of copies. So I love it. So you already said, really what proofreading is. It's the last, pass through the book to make sure everything looks good. It's editing. And is that always the last, or does it sometimes go throughout the book, or is it just always really needs to be reserved for last?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And there's different types of editing. And so proofreading is really, I think of editing kind of like a funnel.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start with like the biggest edits and then you work your way down. And with proofreading, it really is just that really technical stuff. So you're getting down to the nitty gritty, to the final version. And so you will have some proofreading done maybe by editors earlier on in the process, but it's coupled with other things. So it's not really as fine and reformed or refined, I guess, as sort of that final proofread. So
Okay.
really, yeah, the proofread really is generally that final read.
Okay. Now, typically, are you finding things like you're not going in and saying, okay, this needs to be moved to this part of the chapter. You're just looking for grammar and things like that. Is that correct?
That's correct. So if you have editors earlier on in the process, and I know not everybody does a traditional read or
Sure.
anything like that, but if you do have editors earlier on in the process, there's developmental editing, copy editing, line editing, and they're going to look for the, word choice. They're going to look for consistencies in the story or in the book, fact checking. They'll be checking on, this is too wordy. Let's whittle it down. So that will happen if you have editors earlier on. They'll be the ones who are doing that. And the proofread really is just the technical details.
Okay. So you just brought up something I want to ask. If you don't have editors and
Mm-hmm.
someone hires a proofreader, can the proofreader go more in depth? Is that like a different service, or how does that work? If you say, hey, Lucy, look, I didn't have an editor beforehand, but I want you to proofread it. How does that work? Hopefully
Yeah.
they haven't done that, but I know some have.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I get it. There are lots of different formats and ways of doing things, but so I think I would say it depends. Copy editing is is a level up from proofreading, and I think those two get confused a lot. And so
Okay.
copy editing is also checking for some of the proofreading stuff, the grammar and punctuation, so there is some overlap. But they are also looking for the fact checking and the consistencies, redundancy of words, those kind of things. And there are proofreaders out there who do proofreading and copy editing. And so you can sort of get both services in one, but it generally requires more than one pass through the document. And the reason I say that is because you're looking for different things when you're proofreading and when you're copy editing. And it requires a little bit of a different skill set. So if you have somebody do a copy edit, they will probably do a proofread first or proofread second, but it may take a little bit more time for them to go through it. At some point, I hope to offer copy editing. Right now, I strictly do proofreading, but there are people out there who do it. And, one day, hopefully I will do both as well.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I like what you said. You think of editing as a funnel, and proofreading, copy editing, all that. The technical stuff. I love it, and I haven't really thought about it like that before. So that's really cool. You just gave me a new little snippet I can tell people. But I won't take any credit for it. I'll tell them it was you. So anyway, Lucy, I think that's some great information. So what is So I'm not asking you to like share your rates, but what does it typically, cost to have a book of, let's just say, 30 to 50,000 words proofread? Is this like thousands of dollars? What are people looking at for that?
Yes, for sure. So I am terrible at math because I was an English major, so I can't give you a number, but I can tell you how generally things are, how rates are determined. And there's kind of three different ways that you can do your proofreading rates. There's an hourly rate, a rate per page, and then a rate per word. And
Okay.
I would say that per word is the most accurate and so probably the most used. And
Okay.
the reason I say that is because you can tell the client from the get-go, if you charge so an average proofreading rate would probably be 0.01 to 0.015 cents per word, which is a very weird number, but that's kind of I think that would probably be average. Don't quote me on that, but I think that would be pretty standard for a general proofreader. And so if you tell them my book is 30,000 words, then they can do the math and tell you how much it's going to be.
Sure.
If you do it hourly, and I'm sure there are people out there who are great at doing hourly, some things just take longer to read than others, right? A technical book is going to take a lot longer than a fictional book to read. And so it can be hard to know exactly how long it's going to take for you to read that and give an accurate estimate of the price. And then per page, it was probably okay. You just need to make sure you and your client are on the same page about what a page is. So, is that single space, is that double space? Because that'll make a big difference.
Right. Yeah. Is that,
So is that helpful? I know that's not
that's huge. No, that's huge.
Okay.
So for all you guys out there that are good at math, and I am sometimes, but not at night. So I calculator 30,000 times 0.015 is $450. So just a little estimate there. We know that's not going to be perfect for every situation. But I do, that's absolutely helpful, because, if we don't know how much it is, then we can't budget for it, because, whenever one of the things that I do and working, we're going to have George next week, who coincidentally is Lucy's brother-in-law and does my book covers and formatting for me and all my clients, is, before I knew what to pay a book cover designer and a formatter, I had no idea how to budget for it. And so, for my one-on-one clients, I might say, well, hey, we're going to do your whole book for $3,000. And then I get in there and I'm like, oh, well, it's $450 for proofreading. We haven't had it edited yet. We haven't done a cover, and we haven't done a formatter. Oh, well, we're probably not going to get that done for $3,000 if we want it to look professional. So, I think absolutely that's amazing information, Lucy, and something that I didn't know beforehand. And I'm sure a lot of the people in our tribe, and on the podcast may not know as well. So, absolutely great information. How do people go about finding somebody to get a proofreader? Is it just Google search and pray and, go from there? What is it? What's typically done?
That's a good question. I don't know that I have any sort of magic bullet for finding a proofreader. I will say that there are websites out there. There's Upwork, there's Fiverr, all that kind of stuff. And you can find proofreaders on those websites. The one caveat I will say about that is you don't know what their training has been.
Sure.
And what their skill set is. And that's obviously a gamble with anybody you find on those websites. And, I'm on there, so I'm not saying that there's not like I'm not, like it's all trash. I don't mean that at all, but I'm just saying that if you've worked on there at all, then you know that it can be a gamble. And the thing about proofreading is there's no certificate that's required. There's no degree or anything like that. So really anybody can just decide one day they want to be a proofreader, and they can, make a business out of it. But I did go through a program with a certificate. It was called Proofread Anywhere, and it's proofreadanywhere.com. And they have an online graduate directory on there where you can look up proofreaders who have passed the course. And the course takes, I guess as little or as long as you want, but probably a couple months to go through. And then you take an exam at the end. And in order to pass the exam, you have to score a 90%. So it's a pretty high bar. And the nice thing about something like that is that that the proofreaders that you get know what they're doing, because they've been through the course, they've passed the exam and all of that. And then obviously I am also a proofreader. So if anybody needs proofreading services, happy to talk to you about that as well.
That's right. Yeah, LKM Editorial, absolutely. Yeah, it's so I was going to ask you what sets you apart from other proofreaders, and so you obviously answered that. Proofreadanywhere.com. That's pretty high. That is a pretty high bar, 90% to pass. That's, so I'm a physical therapist, have been for 12 years, I guess. And, we passed an exam with a 70. So 80 if it was a practical hands-on. So, 90%, that's really good. I love it. So let's talk about this. You kind of touched on this a little bit and said it's different for each book. It may take longer, even if you turn in a 30,000 page book for one topic may take longer to proofread for another. What is the typical difference between fiction and nonfiction? Is it, let me phrase that a little bit different. Are you qualified and comfortable doing nonfiction versus fiction, and what's the difference from your side?
Sure. So I would say that I feel qualified to do both fiction and nonfiction works. When you get trained in proofreading, at least, you're typically trained in a style or like a manual. So for the publishing world, that's the Chicago Manual of Style. And then there are other styles, the press has one, and academic and things like that. And I would say for any book that is adhering to Chicago Manual of Style, even fiction versus nonfiction, I would feel confident proofreading that because the rules are the same.
Yeah.
If it was an academic paper, I would need to get the style guide for that. Not that I couldn't do it, but I would need to make sure that I had the right style guide for that. But for anything in the publishing Chicago Manual of Style, it's the same rules.
Okay. So let's say that I'm, just this guy from Louisiana, which I am, and I don't have anything. I have no idea about the Chicago Manual Style. I mean, are you still going to be able to proofread my book?
Yeah, absolutely. So the style guides are generally talking about, grammar, punctuation. I mean, it's huge. I have the book right here. I won't show you. It's just very large.
No, I want to see it. Show it to us.
See it? Okay.
Yeah, show it to us. I want to know what you know.
Is the
my
manual.
Gosh.
It's quite large. There it is. Yeah. Now you know I'm official.
Oh yeah. Now it's true. It's Facebook official, so we're good.
There we go. So yeah, I mean, there are some differences, obviously, with whatever you're reading. But yeah, if you don't know anything about the manual, I'm not going to be like, oh no, I can't read that. No problem.
I already knew the answer to that. I just want to hear you say it. I love it. So what would you say to someone who says, look, I'm going to write my book. I know enough about grammar. I'm going to let my sister read it, or my dog, or my brother, or whatever. Why do I need a proofreader?
Sure.
Sell me.
Yeah. Okay. Sell you. I'm not good at this. So a proofreader is beneficial because they will be sure to make your book polished, professional, and clean. And that is no knock on your sister or your dog or whoever. They might do a wonderful job. I don't know their qualifications. Exactly. See, I don't know. But someone who has been trained and who knows the rules is going to make sure that the errors are caught and that everything comes off looking professional. And that's really what you want, right? You want your brand, you want your book, you want your business to come off looking professionally.
Yeah, absolutely. We got some people watching. Tony Lee's in Australia. She's about to publish an amazing book called Outsourcing Like a Boss. I think Karen Malone's watching. She has a book, My Stroke, My Hero, and then Jonathan Randall, who's working on a book. So, I mean, guys, you don't want to spend months working on a book and then hand it in and it looks like, you wrote it at midnight the night before, and you drew a cover on. So definitely don't skimp on the proofreading part. And I love that, that you were just introduced to me literally, I think this week, like Monday or Tuesday, I think, Lucy. And so now I'm like, I got to get you on the podcast and in the group, because I mean, this is something that is huge. And so for the Book Boss Tribe here in the group and daily self-publishing podcast audience, I mean, guys, please don't skimp on this. I mean, we did the numbers, $450. No, that's an estimate. So let's just say roughly $1,000 if you got a huge book and it takes a lot of time and all this stuff. But $1,000 to make your book, or $450 to make your book look amazing, is just, come on now. You got to do it. Tony is a outsourcing genius. She helps you find VAs all over the world. And so she's just put in the comments, outsource the proofreading. So yeah, outsource the proofreading. Give it to Lucy. That's what we're trying to do here. And, or find an amazing proofreader that you trust. Talk about this. And that's the last thing I want you to talk about is, how important is it to have trust with the person that's handling your book, proofreading your book?
Oh, I think having trust is essential, right? You need to have an open line of communication. You need to be able to understand what's going on, trust that they know what they're doing, trust that they're going to get it done on time, that they're going to follow the guidelines and everything. I think trust is huge in any relationship, and a client relationship is no different.
Yeah, absolutely. So when usually I ask Lucy for 3 to 5 tips on people who want to write and self-publish their books, and so I would normally ask you on tips to proofread your book, but I am not going to ask you that because I don't think you should read your book. Tony says, "Love your work, Lucy." That's amazing.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you have to love what you're doing. How are you with communication when you have a client? Is this something that are you emailing back and forth, tech phone? How does that work with your clients, Lucy?
Sure. I am generally more of an email person, introvert by heart. So, I'm more of an email person than a phone person. So I would definitely talk on the phone. But just this morning, I was emailing with a client about a deadline and timing and things like that. So that's probably the best way to get in touch with me and how I tend to communicate.
Yeah. And are you deadline oriented?
Oh, yeah. You can't work in the legal profession and not be
I
deadline
know.
oriented.
I know. I just had to ask because I
Of
just want to
course.
see your face when I said it. And so I wish you would have told me you were an introvert before this because I would have made this even worse. No, I'm just kidding. Lucy, thank you so much for talking to us about proofreading because I think there's, if somebody's watching and wants to ask a question in the group, please do, and I'll ask Lucy because otherwise I don't have any other questions. But you told us what proofreading is, why you need it, when to have it done. I love that you talk. So I've used Fiverr. I've been 100 feet from where I'm sitting right now in the car with my wife and kids crying because of Fiverr. And I sold somebody a book package and I'm trying to get this book. And I ended up editing it myself on the PDF on Adobe. But
Oh, man.
anyway, like you don't want to have those Sunday night crying sessions in your car with your kids.
Right.
Hire a professional that is trained. So I think this is amazing. 0.015 cents per word is pretty much industry standard estimate, guys. What Lucy and I are talking about, but look for Lucy Morton. She's in the group. Reach out to her, LKM Editorial LLC. She's on Facebook, and I know she would love to have your business and help you. And so, Lucy, thank you so much. And it's just been a huge wealth of knowledge that you've given us tonight. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, cool. And we'll have you back soon, hopefully, and you can talk about proofreading some more.
Sounds good. I'll bone up on more rates and tips and all sorts of things.
Yeah, awesome. Oh.